And yeah, it looks like we're recording. It's got the little record symbol next to my ID. So, and I've got to pause recording and stop recording. So looks like we're underway anyway.
Okay, well, let's do it.
All right. Do you want to start? Start things off?
Yeah. This is Stephen from Winning Edge Investments, and I'm here with our Western Australian analyst, Cameron O'Brien, to talk about Ascot Race 7 on Saturday. Yeah. Hi, Cameron.
Hi, Steve. How you going?
Very well.
That's the way.
And yourself?
Right. Yeah, no, good. Had a good day today. Nearly a really good day. But we had a small profit in the end, and 2 seconds in our other two bets, and one winner in 2 seconds. So it was that added to a nice profit yesterday. We've had 2 in a row. Good start to the week after a really good week last week.
No, always good to have winning days.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at the Lex Piper Stakes for Saturday.
Yep. So there's two sort of main races. This and a 3L Fillies race on Saturday. But I thought we'd look at this one because it's an interesting little race for the 3-year-old Colts and Geldings. They over a mile. They're $100,000 races. You can probably see on screen there. And it's only a small field, 9 of the minute. But I actually I have, if I just scroll down, I have 8 of the 9 horses. Here's my current market here. I've got 8 of the 9 horses within 2.2 points of top, which is 1.1 lengths, and between $5.90 and $16.60. I have quite an even race, and yeah, so I thought it'd be worth going through it and just seeing the way the ratings sort of work, and how I come up with a figure, and how I do the form, really, I suppose, and why I give horses the marks I give them, and how it becomes a market. So would you like me just to proceed and sort of start going through them?
Yes, please.
Okay, so if we look over here, I've mapped the race, and just wait for this to scroll down, but I don't think there's a great deal of pace in the race. Oops, gone too far. I don't think there's a great deal of pace in the race. I think that there's a lot of sort of get-back horses. Creative Hero, the one, might end up leading by default, but they might lead on this Lakeview and Star, who's only had a couple of runs. They might lead on it, and there's a few who want to drop back here. I don't see there being a great deal of pace, so I think you want to be on pace, but at the same time, you need to get the strong 1600, or else you're not going to win. So that's how I map it, and yeah, you really want to be on one of these 6 here in reality, from a map point of view, before you actually start the form. So the first thing I always do is do that, and come up with a sort of an idea of how I think it's going to be run, so that I can obviously have that as context for when I do the form on each horse and go through the race. So doing that with the 9 horses in the race, the first horse is this thing here, Creative Hero, who has had, what we can see here, each line is a run. So he had a lot of trials here. These are all, where it says B trial, these are all barrier trials. He had 6 barrier trials before it actually had a race start. And then my rating column is this one here in column AN, and he started out sort of okay, going 95, and then he's won 3 in a row. The grey highlighted ones with the one there in the FinPos column are his wins. And so he's won 3 in a row, going 97, 97, 97. And this is an important figure over here, this M-rate figure, which is an indication of what the market will do. And the market's been well and truly following him. He's had really pike all these runs. Market's been going 97, 100, 101. Now, he did win this race last start, but I didn't think it was very convincing in doing his 97 there. If you look up here in the formula box here, you'll see the right run looked set to bolt in, but run was ending late, which is my little comment on the run, and it was. He kicked away, and I thought, oh yeah, wins by 2 lengths here, and he'll go his 100 to 102, which he looks like he's going to improve to, but then he didn't quite do it, and he just won there, just only by a little bit over the 1500 by 0.2 of a length. And I thought his run was ending on the line, and now he's up to the mile. He's got this, what you'd call a base. Having got 97, 97, 97, horses don't do that early in their career without there being, if that's their top level. He probably has 102 in him at some point, which is a level of 5 points above. But he may not have it in this prep. So I start thinking to myself, okay, he's at maybe 102 horse, but I've got a lot of question marks on him. And he's gone around really short, $1.75, and in his third last start here, and then $1.90, $3.25. The market, as I say, has really been keen on him. But I don't think, even with the really good map that he's got, where he'll be on pace in not much pace, I think he's an issue at the 1600. And yeah, just the way he hit the line last night, I really didn't like it. I pushed him up because you have to with the horses. They've been consistent like that, the way I do the form. But up to 99.5, and that makes him a $9 chance for me. And he's about half that in the market at the moment. So he's one I'll be against. But I think the market will be. I think he'll do it anyway. I don't think he'll start the $4.50, whatever it is at the moment. I think he'll get out a bit. But so that's where I got to with him. We go to the second horse. We have Blackwood River. Yeah, okay. Now this is my second bottom pick in the race. It's just it's got this nice figure back here of 101, which you did over a mile. But I've written my comment already about the horse in today's race here. Sorry, in Saturday's race, I should say. If you look in the Formula Bar, was very one pace last up. The extra trip suits still has a long way to get back to top. He sort of come back really grindingly, and so I need to see some improvement before I'd be wanting to get him near the 101. I've upped him to 97.5, which is about the best I think I can do. He was just outpaced over 1,400 metres last start. Just couldn't go with them, and they went even pace, and he worked home a really one pace grinding run. So I need to see something more about him before I wanted to be on. This one, Sliced Bread, is an interesting runner. He's been back here prior to his last run. Back at the end of last year, he'd been working up from his 94 up to his top here 99, and which he did over 1,600 metres at Ascot. And my little comment, if you're looking at the Formula Bar, there went through between runners and strong online, nice horse, more ground, MG, more ground, long term. I'm going to follow this horse down the track because I think he will as he becomes a 4-year-old, become more of a 2,000 metre horse, that kind of thing. And then he had 42 days off prior to this run here last time over the 1,500 behind Creative Hero. So he was in that race behind Creative Hero, where Creative Hero won, but it was in a slow pace and Creative Hero was on pace. You can see in the Formula Bar, the video comment says last to turn, block majority of straight, taking runs through ruck when able. I added a little comment here to the side, which said, had no hope from last in a very slow pace, very good online. He worked through the field really, really well. I wanted to give him at least 99 because there was just a tune-up run. He's back now 14 days later and up to 1,600. I think he's a really legitimate chance in the race, and could well go around nice over the odds. I mean, he's about $9 or so at the moment, so he's only about similar to my price. But yeah, he might drift out of it. So I think he's a big chance in the race, Sliced Bread. But there are several chances in this race, and as I say, the fact that they're all coming out of, well, not all, but a lot of them were in that Creative Hero race from last start, sort of makes it really interesting about which ones are going to go on and which ones aren't. Platoon here, I have a $7.40 chance. Interesting runner, and probably will be over the odds on the day. My comment about him, if you're looking at the Formula Bar, says was a good 2-year-old and showed signs last prep that he was back. He'll be a 1,600 metre horse for sure, but did little first up, hard to mark. And he did nothing first up, but back here he had 103 as a 1,400 metre 2-year-old and went quite well. And he didn't get back to it here, but he showed signs that he might. With this 99 here that he did over 1,400 metres at Ascot again, he charged through the line, ran on strongly, so he had sort of more in the tank. So you sort of think, well, he still might have this 103 in him at some point, but then he just did bugger all when he was first up. But it was only over 1,200 metres, and so you kind of got to say, well, it's just a bit of a practice run. Without much room. Yeah, I mean, he was kind of just okay that day, I thought, anyway, and he's miles off his top. Pushed him up to 98.5. He's got the ability to win. He's got 103 already, and Creative Hero's best is still at 97. So, Platoon, if he found his form, could absolutely win the race, and he'll be 10 to, well, he's 10 to 1 at the moment. Going on to Final Hearing, who is in the market. I'm 740. The current price is about the same in the real market. Now he is a hard one to mark. What did I say here? I said has a base to go higher marks. Just getting to it. Has a basic of high marks, but it's just been one pace and fair last couple. And he did his 98 on the debut. When you do that in a maiden, I'm thinking to myself, you might have 103 in you in your next level. He hasn't done it yet. But the market thought he'd do it at his third run when they gave him 102 when Pike went back on. And he won, but he only did a 96. And here, 2 runs ago, when he did 100 over 1,400 metres, running second at Bunbury, I said had good run on pace, found line okay, but others better on line, was second up off the lead up. And then last start, I thought he was only just okay with his 96. He just got a bit grindy kind of in that Creative Hero race again. As I said, fair effort, a good run between horses, just one pace in the straight, fitter now, maybe. So it's hard to know what he'll do. You can't give him anywhere near his 103 because it's only a potential mark at this stage. And he really did have his chance last start. I ended up at 98.5, which I think is roughly fair. Makes him about what the market price is. Regal Power. Now, Regal Power, I got $5.90. This is a really consistent horse, and Regal Power's $2.40 favourite. I can't get him that short. He went 94 back here in his maiden at Belmont, and then has worked up to 99 this prep, and probably had his chance there when he did his 99. Here, the start after, he just got a bit far out of his ground, but made good ground for his 99 again. And then last start, as I said here, about him in the Creative Hero race, I said should have won, held up on rail, home turn, got out 150 and ran on good after line. So it was 97. So should have won. He probably, if he gets a clear run, he probably goes 99. He wouldn't have gone more than 99. And the previous start, I'd said about him that he sat last, came home solidly down the middle and good after line. So I'm 99. I've given him the full 99. He's got Pike on, though. The market likes that. Maybe he's got more in him. Maybe he's got 102 to 104. He's so solid, all these marks. And this is what I was saying before. When they do things like this, then it tends to indicate that they might have more in them. And so maybe he does. Maybe he does have more in him. Maybe I need to give him a little more. But yeah, he's hard to come into at the 240. Maybe he's 104 horse, got 94, next level 99. He's done his 99. Maybe his next level is 104. And if he did that on Saturday, he's just going to win. But I can't really. He's had all these. He's had. This is still his first prep. He's had so many runs. I've got him at the 99. I don't really want to be near the price he is. I think if he wins, he will win by a little bit, and so I couldn't come in at 240. Going on to the next one, because he's one of my equal top picks, so I think he's one of the hardest to beat. Fred Dagg is it's another get back horse, which is not an ideal thing. And I've got him priced at $12, about sixth pick. I said forgive last start, otherwise racing well on the trip suits. And yeah, this was a pretty good win, this win at Bunbury back here, and then he had problems there last start. He looks like off his maiden win of 95, he looks like he could be a 100 horse, and the market did give him 100 there. And so I'm sort of thinking I want to get him up there, but he will be back as well, and back in a slow pace, and he'll be in one of those spots that I mentioned before where it's disadvantageous. Whiting's riding really well, but he'll have to go back from that gate, and so end up with him at 97.5. Classic Jack just needs to improve too far. He's done 91, 95, winning at Albany and over further, comes back to the mile, so he can obviously stay, but he just needs too much, and he's had 7 runs his prep already, so bringing him back in trip, and he'll be back in the field as well. I'll bring him back to 93.5 and not give him much hope. And the last horse, excuse me, is Lakeview and Star. This is a fascinating runner. He was heavily backed, went around $1.40 favourite on debut at Bunbury after a couple of good trial wins, big margins. And I watched that replay again earlier, and he as I said, he gradually crossed, led. No big acceleration is what that next bit was about to say. No big acceleration, but had a kick strong to line. As a strong one pacer will get further. And he will. He's got a big gangly galloping action. He doesn't have a turn of foot at all. He'll make a mile or 2,000 metre horse down the track for sure, but he just doesn't have any gears. And then he went around $1.50 favourite at Ascot a couple of weeks ago, and same thing here. I said a race fairly handy, 3 wide, no cover throughout. Took ages to wind up. Winner got him wider. Again, more ground will be okay. Hasn't got gears. I don't think he'll have any problems with the mile. The only issue is he's doing it at his third run in his career. So it's a big jump from 1200, but he maps really well. He's one of those two on pace. He might lead Creative Hero, and he might just sort of you might grind them into the ground and keep going. He's a really interesting runner, and one, if he got out a little bit in the market, I think, I wouldn't mind being on, but given he's been so heavily backed in his first two runs, he might not get out in the market at all. I mean, he went 91.92, and his market rating went from 91 on debut, was $1.40 favourite, up to 100 at Ascot his next run. So they've had an opinion of him. I've actually bonused him right up because he got a couple of points bonus. I count that as like a 94 rating last start, where when he raced wide throughout, and up in trip and on pace, I want to push him up. They think something of him, and O'Donnell's a good rider. But I've got him $5.90 and he's $5 in the current market, so I can't currently, but he may get out. But anyway, we'll see. Things can change between now and then. But it makes it a really fascinating race for me, and with a lot of those horses, as I say, coming out of the Creative Hero race, it's a really interesting race. It'll be interesting to see how it's run. There's only one horse really who's no hope in that Albany winner, the Classic Jack, and having said that, now will probably come out and win. And yeah, some really interesting form line. So thought it was a good example of a race to show how the ratings work, and in this example, how similar form lines come together in a race, and how a map and weights can make the difference. Or in the case of Creative Hero, where I think will get beaten, is how it's replayed last start just sort of indicate, well, it just needs too much for me to be able to win, and it's got the top weight, even though there's only 56 to 54 on the set weights and penalties between them all. It still has to give most of them a little bit of weight. So that's where we end up with it. At this stage, I'm not sure what the betting action will be, but the market will change no doubt between now and Saturday, and I'll review then and see what it looks like. Stephen?
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So while it's a fascinating race, it may not be a betting race.
No, it probably won't be. Not when I'm like that. It's hard to sort, but it is a very interesting race, and I thought it was a really good example race to use. Not so much about finding a tip or a bet, really, as much as just showing how the methodology works, and patterns, speed lightly raced horses, how they go in 5-point levels, especially off a maiden win and things like that, and how if they've got a base like Creative Hero does have, and one or two others, they can improve when they get everything right. And so, yeah, I thought it was a nice race to use as an example. Well, maybe next week, so I'm going to do one of these a week going ahead. So maybe next week we'll find one where there's a tip. But for this race, this was a good example of one with showing examples of how the ratings work.
No, good. Always good to have good information and understand how these things work.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, I'm a racing and ratings nerd, and always have been. And in respect of that, I get interested by this kind of thing, by the intersecting, by how the similar form lines and how things like weight changes and map changes can influence what a horse is going to rate, and therefore what kind of horse you should be on. I mean, if I was just going to have to pick out a play out of nowhere, I just really did like Sliced Bread. If he got to double figure odds, I'd want to be on. I haven't checked out all the bookies. I just looked at the TAB fixed odds so far, but I just really like the run of Sliced Bread, and he really did strike me as a horse that is set to peak in this race. Lakeview and Star is a fascinating horse. As I say, Regal Power will be very hard to beat. But he's far too short. And Creative Hero, he was $4.50 when they opened earlier. I see he's out to $6 now, so he's already drifted. As I say, at $4.50, he was, or $4.60, whatever he was. I would have said he was a good lay, but they've already worked that out because he's drifting. As I say, Lakeview and Stars, fascinating. Regal Power, Final Hearing are all really good chances as his platoon. So it's a good race.
No, it'll be an interesting race to watch with this insight to all the runners.
Yeah. All right, so that's that. I might not be tipping anybody anything, but I'll certainly be watching it with great interest anyway.
Indeed. Oh, well, thank you for that insight, Cameron, and we're looking forward to a good day's racing on Saturday.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Stephen. We'll see how it all pans out. I have done some form already, and there are already a couple of other ones that are jumping out as bets for me. Just hopefully we get an okay price.
Indeed. Okay. Thank you for tonight, and we'll talk again soon.
No worries. Thanks, Stephen.
Okay. Thank you.